It's the 2nd of April and I want to tell you about a problem I've been having with the fruit cage for the past couple of years. I first noticed it when some birds got trapped in here and I couldn't at first see how they actually got in. Then I looked around the bottom of the cage and I noticed there was some holes. Holes that looked like they'd been cut, because this is plastic netting but it's long away from being decayed. It's still in very good condition. And then one day I noticed at the end of the garden a little rat moving across into the hedge. I mean, somebody keeps chickens over that side and I know there's been rat problems elsewhere, and I think what was happening was that rats, or perhaps other small creatures, were biting their way into the fruit cage and nipping in for a quick strawberry. So I tried to repair it. Here's a photograph of some of the repair that was done to one of the larger holes in the bottom of the cage, but it was kind of fighting a losing battle, because as soon as you sealed up one, something would bite through another. So this year I thought I'd try something rather more radical, and as you can see from the white tape around the bottom of the fruit cage, I've installed an electric fence. Now this might be useful to you if you're trying to protect a cage from small creatures, or maybe you keep chickens and you'd like to do something to protect them from the foxes. But this is the story of what I've done so far. It remains to be seen as the summer goes on how effective that is. The core of this system is the Energizer. I bought this one from Amazon at the beginning of 2023 for £70. It's different from many Energizers in that it doesn't require a power supply in addition to the Energizer itself. Often some require car batteries or something with them. This has a battery in it which will charge with USB in the house, but its main source of replenishing itself is solar panels, and as far as I can see that works reasonably well, because I've only had to recharge it once, and I think that may have been because, as I'm shortly to explain, the first time I set up the fencing tape I did it in a way which caused a lot of leakage, a lot of earthing of the tape itself, which may have drained the battery. I'd add at this point that I don't receive any kind of sponsorship or funding when I mention products. When I mention products, it's because I've genuinely used them and I'm genuinely happy with them. Here's a view of the Energizer showing the solar panel more clearly. Obviously in southern England where I am, the panels need to face due south if they possibly can, which is what this one does. Here's a view of the earth spike that goes into the ground to earth the Energizer. You can see behind it the remains of some damage that was done by the rats, as I explained earlier. On the right you can see the connector which connects the Energizer to the live tape, which I've labelled along the bottom. The tape is a plasticky sort of material and it's got some metal wires threaded through it that conduct the electricity. Above that you can see two other tapes which are the remains of the failed first attempt to put an electric barrier around the fruit cage. Because the plastic of the netting on the fruit cage wouldn't conduct electricity, I'd assumed it was okay to attach the tape directly to the netting, and you can see I've done that with cable ties. And then when it reached a post, which are metal, I put a block of wood but to separate the post from the tape. And I'd also been a little bit remiss in that around the back of the fruit cage there was a lot of dead leaves and bits of vegetation and some old straw and stuff, which some of which in places was touching the live tape. And I think what happened was that when it rained, the vegetation and the wooden props that were holding the tape off the poles did conduct sufficient electricity to act as a drain and to earth the live tape. When I measured it after a day or two, I was only seeing 2000 volts or thereabouts when the energizer was supposed to produce 6,500. So I think I learned from that the golden rule is to make sure that the tape or the wire doesn't touch anything other than plastic insulators. And I got these insulators, you can see on the left there, to hold the tape well away from anything that was likely to earth it. This photograph shows how the insulators are connected to the fence. The insulators themselves are connected to their post via bolts that stick out of the back of them that can be held on with nuts, or in this case with wing nuts, all of which come with the insulator. In the notes below I'll put the link to the Amazon page where I purchased those insulators. You can see that it's actually just clamped to quite a flexible fence itself, and with a bit of trial and error I discovered that one small support and one long support, which can also touch the ground, stiffens up the netting, which holds the insulators in place very firmly for the job of holding the tape. This photograph just shows a corner with a plastic insulating material holding the tape away from the metal post, and stating the golden rule that I'd now discovered, that the tape should touch nothing but plastic insulation, and that wet vegetation or wet wood will earth it and drop the voltage considerably. The main thing, of course, in terms of seeing whether the fence continues to function properly, is to test the voltage on it from time to time. I don't know any other way of doing that other than to use one of these fence testers which I got from Amazon. I don't think there's anything special about this one necessarily, but I'll put a link at the bottom to the page on Amazon so you can see what I'm using. All you do is loop the top of it over the wire and then place this other probe into the soil to provide an earth, and then there's a series of windows on the fence tester, and the highest one that flashes indicates what the maximum voltage is. They complain on Amazon, and quite reasonably, that in sunlight or conditions like this you can't actually see what the fence tester is registering, but I found that if you just put a plant pot over the top and look through the hole, that produces enough darkness to see the flashes. And I can see that we're currently on 6,000 volts, so hopefully that's going to be enough to deter the intruders. Anyway, I hope you've found something useful or interesting in this video, and as ever, thank you very much for watching.